They're all advocating for drug use and free love. No, I'm just kidding. But back to the issue of sentencing. I mean, sentencing does affect communities of color more because communities of color tend to be poor. If you're somebody who's rich, you can afford to get an attorney and fight the sentencing charges. If you're somebody who's poor, you can't. Your options either plea out or serve your sentence, and that goes in your record. So it is, yes, an issue of color, but it's also an issue of poverty, an issue of economic inequality. Why is it that for the same offense, as long as you have a good lawyer or a good last name or good connections, you don't go to prison, it doesn't go in your record, but if you don't have any of this stuff, you go to prison for 10 years. And I do agree with what they said. Sentencing reform needs to be changed. What did we remember from the 90s? Law and order, right? We need more cops on the street, we need to put people away behind bars because they're doing drugs. Without realizing a lot of people who were doing drugs had mental issues, had economic issues, other issues. And what do? We have an entire generation of people in prison because they did drugs. Now, of course, there should be some sort of regulation in terms of what type of drugs, because, you know, people make crystal meth in their backyard and they use Drano and all that stuff to make it. So, I mean, it's not like you can exactly get an ounce of crystal meth and it tells you 100 calories and 2 ounces of sodium and 3 ounces of sodium and 3 ounces of potassium, you know, not like you get your chips. So there definitely should be something around like that. But yes, the issue of mass incarceration needs to end. Mass incarceration breaks apart families. Mass incarceration hurts us economically. And mass incarceration removes the humanity of people. It reduces them to numbers, it reduces them to outsiders, and at the end of the day, they're people who are just like you and me. Like the saying goes, but by the grace of God, they're alive. Thank you.
I say free market capitalism is the solution. Most of these minority communities that turn to drugs are in slums and in big cities run by Democrats. Assemblymen are Democrats, senators are Democrats, their city councilmen are Democrats, and they've been Democrats since like the 50s and 60s. And these policies of high minimum wages and all these other laws put in place to stifle economic freedom is exactly what's making them turn to drugs. So I agree that we should decriminalize drugs, and I'm glad you agree with me that less government will eventually solve this problem. But your policies run counter to each other because you want all these wages and all these things that are going to stifle economic growth, and then you blame the system, which is controlled by you. So I don't understand what you're talking about here when you tell me all these things, because frankly, you're inconsistent.
I would like to add that I definitely agree that we should get rid of the crack versus cocaine disparity. They should be tried the same way.
College Democrats, again, a remote if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, who was a party of law and order? Who was a party saying, look at these thugs? Who was a party saying, look at these minorities and third communities? Who was the party who incarcerated them?
You.
It was
You're controlling the cities that they're in.
Your party.
How are you blaming
Spread law. Your party, majority of the
You're controlling Chicago, Detroit, New York, LA. You're controlling all these cities where all those problems are taking place in. This is not my fault. This is not our
College Republicans, please give this to College Democrats.
No,
They have 30
look,
seconds.
look, if you're gonna complain about the government, and you're talking about how we only each have ourselves, and we only have, but you're at the same time turn around and say, well, no, it's government's problem. So which one is it, Rob? Is it either we each are responsible for our own individuality, or is government responsible for the actions that we do?
I'm George, bro.
You mentioned Rob, so I'll say something anyway.
You're both Republicans.
You're both right.
But yeah, I mean, the party that demonized and hit minorities in the 70s and 80s as welfare queens, as people who abuse the system, was your party. The party who said people of color are out to get us was your
You
party.
control the South from 150 years, from Reconstruction to 1990. Don't give me a lecture on civil rights.
Hey, don't. And let me tell you, the people who were 17 later became Republicans. They're Republicans in their life.
Name more
Thank you, College
Strom
Democrats.
Thurmond,
Time is
Jesse
up.
Helms.
College Democrats, time is up. Thank you for that spirited answer. College Republicans, you have a 30-second response.
Well, he mentioned Rob, so I guess I'll start now.